Start from the beginning.
Well, I work as an emergency medical technician at the Montgomery County Jail through a vendor named NaphCare. NaphCare is a company based in Birmingham, Alabama. They do correctional medicine in jails all over the country. Like I said, worked at the Montgomery County Jail under a nurse practitioner by the name of James C.
And he was a nurse practitioner?
He was a nurse practitioner.
Does that mean he's an RN or?
Yes.
Okay.
Nurse practitioners, they have to get their bachelor's degree in nursing, which is a BSN. It's an RN. And they go on to another 2 years or so and get a nurse practitioner degree, and that allows them to prescribe medications. He was a nurse practitioner since '09, and in October, was it October of 2010, that he was working out in the gym and he got hurt.
Okay.
Okay, and then he started taking these medications.
What was his injury, do you know?
He tore both his quads and broke his leg.
Ooh.
Yeah, he was, I guess, doing squats in the weight room, and
5 different.
5 different heavy narcotics from what we were told, Dilaudid, Percocet, of the sort, like that. He was an absentee boss, pretty much. He would only come to work 2 or 3 times a week at the most. I really believed that he needed to have short-term disability or anything like that, because he always figured he could take off whenever he needed to. Well, that kind of burned him, because he ran out of his sick time due to his injury, and he had to do something for work. So he started taking calls from home, calling in orders for inmates and stuff like that. Well, when he did that, he was under the influence of narcotics, heavily under the influence of narcotics.
And how can you prove that he was?
By his voice, just the way he would talk. He would slur his speech. His decision making wasn't quite as crisp as it should have been and had been in the past. And plus, the administrative assistant that was running the office at the time would brag in the office about how high he was and how much medications he was on. And
Who was that person?
Joan Morris. And she just thought it was comical. And as an emergency medical technician or anybody in the medical field, your main goal is the patient. And my main goal was, no matter how I felt about him, was to make sure that he didn't do anything to put anybody's life in jeopardy. And, when I first started this, I always said that if you put my life in danger, the people I care for, as in patient-wise, I'm going to turn you in. So I filled out a complaint via the internet and sent it to the nursing board. And the nursing board contacted me about, I don't know.
And your complaint was that he was just under the influence at work?
Just under the influence of narcotics and prescribing medications to the patients at the jail. One of the charges that the nursing board found valid was doctor shopping, jumping from doctor to doctor. He'd have, I think, one instance that the nursing board had told us was he went to the emergency room for pain one day and got a prescription of Percocet. 2 or 3 days later, he went to the dentist for dental pain, got another prescription of Percocet, never told the dentist about the original, and then he went to his family doctor or whatever and another prescription within a 7-day period, 3 different prescriptions. And that was through what they call the ORS report, which is the pharmacy board can pull any nurse or doctor that has prescriptive authority. They can pull their report and see what medications they do take and where they get them filled and what doctor filled them. You know, it's kind of a checks and balances. And you know, they found a lot of stuff. What you know, my original complaint was him prescribing medicines under the influence, and it just snowballed into writing his own prescriptions, writing prescriptions for people that worked at NaphCare, and they would get that prescription filled and then bring the drugs to him. He did that with Greg Morton, who had the same position I had there, just at a different shift. And he also did it for his father-in-law. His father-in-law did that for him as well. The nursing board they started their investigation, and all this stuff started to come to light, and it was just getting deeper and deeper. And what Melissa Nouse, I think her name is, from the nursing board, she told us every time they think they're about ready to wrap something up, something new pops up. And you know, we haven't been privy to all the stuff that they have, but she has enlightened us a lot about what was going on with him.
Yeah, we contacted them. They told us that they could not confirm or deny whether an investigation was going on.
Yeah, once
We
this
got to wait till
investigation,
it's over, or
Yeah.
till they release it. So.
yeah, once the investigation has been logged, it's public record. What my suspicion is, and this is totally my suspicion, is that they're trying to hold off to charge James C. until after Sheriff Plummer's been elected, because this is going to be a black mark on him as well.
How is Sheriff Plummer connected to James C. other than his company he worked for, his contracting at the jail? But do you think there's a lack of supervision on the county's part through a contractor, or?
He's responsible for everything that happens in that jail. As their investigation went forward, they found that James C. did not renew the pharmacy license for 2 years.
In the jail?
In the jail. And to me, that's something that Sheriff Plummer should have known, or one of his subordinates. You know, like Major Wilson, the major of the jail, or Captain Crosby, who was the point of contact between the sheriff's office and James C. and NaphCare. You know, I would believe that you should probably check that kind of stuff periodically, just to make sure everything's running right.
Were any jail officials aware of what you say with common knowledge of him being kind of not
absolutely
straight and on the straight and narrow?
Well, I would say that,
or just being sober.
Well, I would say that the jail staff probably weren't aware of him being under the influence while treating patients, because that was kind of between the LPN staff, the nursing staff, Joan Morris, and James. Those are pretty much the only people that would talk to him about prescribing medications. But they were aware of his absenteeism, not being there, I would say that place ran pretty well in spite of what James was doing, not because of James, but in spite of him.
He's no longer there. Am I correct?
He was forced to resign.
Okay.
Yes.
And do you know if there was they were charged? All these things came to light, and he was asked to resign by the jail officials, Sheriff Plummer.
I think NaphCare.
Or was it someone within NaphCare?
Finally got to the point where they couldn't justify keeping him around any longer. They were, according to Dr. Ellis.
When we spoke with Dr. Ellis, she said she could not confirm or deny any of Johnny Jackson's allegations.
He was the medical director of the jail, who has done her best to try to keep things under control and on the up and up in the jail, medical wise, to no avail. It's still messed up in there, according to my mom, who still works there. Once the investigation started to unfold, the nursing board contacted Joan Morris, who's the administrative assistant, for all medical charts involving James C. during a certain period of time. Well, she went through, my mom, Donna Albrechtson here, was the medical records person at the jail. And she witnessed Joan Morris going through all the charts and picking out certain charts to give to the nursing board and hiding other charts that were incriminating. My mom took those names down, okay, of the charts that were put away and not given to the nursing board. And those were later on given to the nursing board to prove deception. The pharmacy board also found, from what my knowledge, that James C. also had taken drugs from our own pharmacy in the jail and has given them to one of the nurses that worked there, Amanda Rodriguez, who he had an
affair with.
Yeah, an unprofessional relationship with. That was common knowledge throughout the jail. Corrections staff, medical staff, you know, everybody that worked inside there knew that there was an inappropriate relationship going on.
Have they now?
Just by the way they acted with each other, how she would spend 3 or 4 hours of her 8-hour shift in his office with him. He would buy her dinner. No physical affection towards each other in the public spaces of the jail, but it was pretty obvious to somebody, you know, just a layman, that there was something going on between them two.
How long was it after they found out that he had been doing things that were unethical?
It was quite a while.
Before I got fired, before he got resigned, before he resigned?
Yes, there was forced to resign.
He was barred from the jail because the investigation came forward. He was barred from the jail temporarily at first. They revoked his clearance because that's standard procedure when any state investigation or any kind of investigation is going on. That was around first of the year.
From
But
home.
he still, NaphCare still, he was to not have, per the nursing board and the pharmacy board, he was not to have any contact with any part of the jail business, the medical business inside the jail. And he was still running the show from home for another 2 or 3 months. And
With the knowledge of the NaphCare his higher-ups?
yes, absolutely. The higher-ups from NaphCare came to us when all this stuff started to come down, when he was barred from the jail. And the CEO of NaphCare and owner, James McLean, the counsel for NaphCare and Vice President Bradley King, and Vice President, the President Lee Harrison of the company, all came to Montgomery County Jail and spoke with us. They told us that Bart Skank, who is an RN, who was an RN at the jail, she's since been fired as well, was going to be the acting health services administrator, which was the position James held. And James is going to be off a little bit longer because he had to have another surgery.
Which was untrue.
Which I knew and she knew because we were involved in this, that it was untrue. And they were covering it up. Of course, the sheriff's office also knew. That's why they revoked his clearance. But NaphCare was, according to Dr. Ellis, who was a confidant and friend of James until she realized what was going on with him, he told her that they were paying for his legal fees. inmates as well. And flying them around to different facilities inside NaphCare, Rome, and having him teach people how to be a health service administrator.
And NaphCare is still running the show?
Yeah, NaphCare is still running the show.
How did they come to grab that contract?
Well, it's kind of funny when you think back. Back in 2003 is when NaphCare took the contract. I started with NaphCare the day they took control of the jail. Now, Jesse, the guy that is doing I think Jesse Knowles, no, I can't remember his last name. He's the guy that's doing the pharmacy board investigation. He did the investigation of the sheriff's office pharmacy when they had a sergeant taking Vicodin from the pharmacy. His recommendation was, you need to go with an outside vendor and let them take care of all your medical issues inside the jail. Well, it happened to be NaphCare that won the bid. They were the lowest bidder that could provide the service that the jail wanted. So that's how they came to have the contract. And I was there all the way up until April of this year. April 20th is the day that they terminated me.
What was the cause they gave you? What was the reason they gave you for your
Unsatisfactory work performance.
Is it based on any sort of...
I got a raise and a favorable review not 2 weeks prior to them firing me for unsatisfactory work performance.
Did you have any history of tardiness, not coming in, anything like that? Any disciplinary action in the past?
I had been written up several times by James for things that he thought I did, but I really didn't do. And there was no recourse that I had with James. He was the be-all, end-all.
Yeah, it wasn't any kind of unionized...
There was no union. There was no contact with Alabama that we had. A fellow coworker and myself both had called down to Alabama and complained about the way that James was treating all the employees. And prior to hanging the phone up, I mean, this may be a little exaggeration, but James knew that we had called the confidential complaint line about the boss. And so there was no recourse to be had.
Now, you had filed a lawsuit against him?
I did.
What was that lawsuit for?
Filed a lawsuit for whistleblower protection.
Okay.
And unlawful firing and unlawful termination. I'm sorry.
I take it you had came to a settlement,
Yes.
you and your attorney, it was Aaron Durton, I believe.
Yeah, Aaron Durden. They called it a nuisance payment. Is what they called it.
Are you allowed to talk about, I mean,
Which
you
to
said you
me,
had a
I
gag
think he
order?
got screwed.
No, I'm under a gag order and I'm choosing to break it.
Okay. How much was the payment for?
$5,000.
Okay, so...
And they took taxes out. So, and
And I
from the
think he got
fees of the
screwed.
lawyer.
So they probably won't, they'll probably be asking for their $5,000 back then.
Probably. They have a history of bad behavior. They're not even allowed to practice in their own state.
Because of a multitude of complaints from prisoners, family members, and jail officials, Jefferson, Morgan, and Madison counties in Alabama canceled contracts with NaphCare in 2002. The results from a state-ordered study of medical care in Alabama prisons performed by a Chicago-based Jacqueline Moore and Associates were released in February 2003. The study found serious deficiencies in the services provided to inmates by NaphCare, including unqualified nursing staffs and little to no access to primary care dental services, prescriptions, and required surgeries. Department of Corrections statistics reveal that the death rate of Alabama inmates increased dramatically since NaphCare began providing health services to prisoners in 2001. In 2003, the Alabama Department of Corrections ended its contract with NaphCare. That same year, Montgomery County Jail in Ohio signed into a contract with the company.
Anybody that was associated that worked there,
Mm-hmm.
the people that were associated with James were fired in the beginning to make a statement to the sheriff's office that they were cleaning this stuff up. But the problems have persisted. The older nurses that worked there prior to James are one by one getting fired. When they were looking for somebody to replace James, they had a guy apply by the name of Gary who was a 20-year nurse manager, very qualified for the position, and they chose not to hire him and chose to hire the one that's in the position now, Karina. I don't know her last name either. Carlisle. And she is a 2-year associate degree nurse who has only been a nurse for 2 years. Because it's my belief that NaphCare wants to have somebody in that position where they can more or less control, to keep damage control down, because they're still in a heap of trouble with the pharmacy board because they can't get their pharmacy and under guidelines for the pharmacy board. And they just re-signed a contract with the sheriff's office.
So they re-signed a contract with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department, and they don't have a pharmacy license?
They do have a pharmacy
do.
license now,
Okay.
but they have several, I think it was 7 pages typed of pharmacy violations.
What do you think ought to be done, immediately?
Well, I believe that NaphCare should be removed from the jail. I believe another company should be in charge of doing the medical operations at the jail. They have proved incompetence throughout the last few years. I believe that they're a danger to the people that they treat in there. And
Why is that?
they,
I mean, you talked about Mr. C, but
yeah, well, bad judgment, is dangerous. You have,
especially with dealing
especially if you're dealing with
drugs
medications.
and mixing things, and
Yeah, and if you can't keep your pharmacy straight, you don't have good managers that will make sure everything is running correctly and in order, anything could happen. And they have a history throughout, NaphCare's existence of issues that they've had. All you have to do is Google them. And you'll see. There's far more issues with NaphCare than there are praises.
would you vote for Sheriff Plummer?
No.
No.
You don't think he's a good guardian of the system over there, or?
I believe that, from what I understand, the sheriff's main goal is to have a jail in good working order. And one of the, you have to house them, you have to feed them, and you have to give them medical care. And the medical care is life or death situations. And if you can't control the medical care inside the jail, then you need to have somebody there that can.
You think it'd be easy for another James C. to happen?
Absolutely.
Oh, with NaphCare? Oh,
Karina
absolutely.
Carlisle right now is making the same exact mistakes that James C. has made, taking away the drug abuse.
I'll give you an example. This girl had a mass on her chest. She was sent out. They found the mass. Dr. Ellis ordered a mammogram. Karina called NaphCare, overrode Dr. Ellis. And NaphCare said, well, just keep an eye on her.
Beyond the ability of the county to take
They
that
get,
over? I mean, they would be transparent, at the very least, because they'd fall under public records
it's
law.
all liability for the county, because
Okay.
NaphCare assumes all liability.
Okay.
And they had an opportunity in September to choose another company. and they chose to stay with NaphCare, which in my opinion is a bad decision.
Especially knowing.
NaphCare cut their price, and this is a public record.
Mhm.
You could get the contract to stay in good graces with the sheriff's office, keep the contract for another period, and reestablish themselves, and then raise the price back again. And that's my opinion. It's good business. I wouldn't say it's good medical care.